Oh my goodness, right as I was about to start recording, this dude just, yeah, he refused to let me close the door, so of course I had to open it for him. And now he's leaving. Cat mom life. So if you saw my last video, you'll know that I recently decided to quit my job to take a short-term sabbatical. And even though this was something that I wanted to do for a really long time, I actually didn't give myself much time to prepare for when I actually did it. But if you're somebody who's thinking about quitting or have decided to quit recently as well, but you're not sure how to plan through things financially, let me share with you my situation in the hopes that you can follow some of the tips that I share. Obviously, as a disclaimer, I am by no means a financial expert, and I do acknowledge that everybody's financial situation is unique. For some context on mine, I did have the privilege of receiving financial help throughout college, and so I was able to pay off about $30,000 of the rest of my student loans during COVID. So as of now, I don't have any large debts to account for, which is actually a key factor that allowed me to really push with my decision to quit without another job lined up. And if you're curious about what to consider before you decide to quit a job, feel free to watch my previous video after this one. Okay, make sure to watch this one first, where I go through 3 questions to ask yourself before leaving a job. All right, let's get started. Okay, so let's first talk about survivability. Imagine that your money is like your ammunition in a zombie apocalypse. If you're down to your last bullet, then that's essentially your doomsday. So let's first look at how much in total I can possibly survive on for the time being. I've had a high yield savings account since like midway through college, and this is what I would consider my main storage for my artillery, aka cash. I currently have a total of just over $20,000 in my high yield savings account, which I would recommend if you don't have a high yield savings account yet, definitely set one up as soon as possible. If you don't know what that is, a high yield savings account basically has a higher interest rate, typically at like 3 or 4%, which allows the money that you deposit in there to grow at a faster rate than compared to a traditional savings account, which a lot of the times those are at like less than 1%, so it's really not doing much for your money. So I use American Express for my high yield savings account, which is currently at like a 4.3% interest rate, but there's plenty of options out there, so definitely do your research and figure out which one you will want to go with. But going back to survivability, $20,000 might seem like a decent amount of money, but for my mentality, I'm imagining 10,000 of that to be more towards like an emergency. So once I reach that halfway mark, that's when I start to feel uncomfortable and want to make sure it doesn't go below that by a ton. So other than the $20,000 in savings, let's also take a look at my other liquid assets. And by liquid, I mean assets that I can easily take out of or acquire for use. So for example, a retirement fund is not something I want to pull out of unless it's like an absolute emergency. Imagine like there's a horde of zombies coming at me and I only have 1 bullet. That's when I want to pull out that bazooka to like kill them all off. That's the mentality for the retirement fund, okay? We just don't want to pull out of that. So I also have about $4,500 in my checking account, and if I really wanted to, I could pull out about $7,500 from a brokerage account that I created for investing. So overall, that leaves me with a total of about $32,000 of liquid assets to really work off of during this time. Alright, so let's shift to the necessary expenditures. Basically, this is like the amount of money I need to spend in a month to survive. Imagine it's like the number of bullets that I need to spend in a month to kill zombies in my area to keep my base safe. The first necessity is obviously housing. I currently live with my partner and we split the rent evenly, which comes to about $1,600 a month for my portion. I also decided to budget about $200 for groceries, and to be honest, before I quit my job, I used to spend double that on average, but I've come to realize that I really am purchasing a lot of things that I don't need. Trader Joe's, you're my weakness. So I'm gonna be much more intentional when it comes to shopping for groceries. Gas is thankfully pretty low because your girl's an introvert and doesn't go out much. So I would say about $45 is plenty. That's basically like a tank of gas a month. And then my car payment is something that I also need to account for, which is $345 a month. And then other reoccurring expenses to account for would be my boxing classes, which comes to about $89 a month plus $9 tax. So that's about like $98 a month. I also have Spotify and Netflix, which combined together is about $22 a month. Now let's just back up here. Okay, I understand that boxing, Spotify, and Netflix are not necessities, all right? Boxing classes for me has been not only physically beneficial, but really mentally as well. So that's why I decided to include that within my monthly expenditures. And then Spotify and Netflix are platforms that are obviously not things that I need, but I'm okay with keeping them within my monthly expenditures for now, and I can cancel them at any point if I do start feeling like they're just things that I can throw out. Okay, not gonna lie, I took like a 2-hour break in between recording because recording the first half was just so hard. Anywho, all right, let's talk about discretionary spending. This is basically how much I want to spend per month on things that I would like to do, like eating out, traveling, exploring hobbies, etc. So it's a little bit hard to foresee what I plan to do on a month-to-month basis, but let's see what I do have planned so far. My biggest discretionary expense that I have in mind would be a trip to Vegas in December. One of my East Coast besties has never been, so I told her, you know what, let's go. Looking at flights, they're actually pretty affordable for the dates that we plan to go, but I was able to look at my Chase reward points and determine that I can actually cover my flight cost using those points instead. So that's at zero cost for me. So the hotel cost, which I looked up, would be about $370 for each person for the 3 nights that we'll be there. And then I decided to go ahead and budget about $750 for food, show tickets, and anything else that we end up doing. And that leaves me at about $1,100 total for the trip. In general, I'm expecting December to be the most expensive month, given that it is the holiday season. There will be gift giving and whatnot. I'm expecting December to be about like $4,000 total, taking into account the necessities as well as the Vegas trip and any other discretionary spending. For the months of October and November, I'm budgeting myself $250 a month for these 2 months, just to make those tighter due to the larger spending in December. So taking all of the necessary and discretionary expenses into account, I'm looking at spending about $8,780 total by the end of the year. Ooh, that's a lot of money. Alright, now that we have all the expenses accounted for, let's talk about income. Now obviously I don't have a primary source of income at the moment, but there's definitely ways for me to offset at least a portion of those expenses. Before quitting, I actually went ahead and I set up a profile on a childcare website, which has allowed me to find babysitting opportunities in my area. So as of now, I've only taken one reoccurring babysitting job, which pays me at about $25 an hour, and I was able to negotiate that pay up to $30 an hour after the first 4 sessions. So as of this month, I'm expecting to earn about $300, and then for the months thereafter, about $360. Now, that's not much, but at least it covers like my car payment, right? Which is around $345. So I'm basically reducing my monthly expenses down to about $2,000 a month. I also decided that if I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable about my expenses and how much I have in my savings, then I would go and look for a part-time job, whether it's in retail or some sort of service industry work. Other sources of income, which I am just first saying, like they are not reliable, they're not things I'm depending on currently, but that is Twitch and YouTube. So for Twitch, I'm currently at an affiliate status, so that allows me to collect earnings after surpassing a $50 threshold. Now, does that happen often? Absolutely not, okay? It's very sporadic, it's very minimal, so this is not something that I will rely on nor depend on. However, it's nice in these moments when I do get that extra cash. For YouTube, obviously I'm not monetized, but feel free to subscribe to join, okay? I'm at about like 70 subscribers and I would love to reach monetization someday. But again, this is a longer term goal in the making. For me personally, I love content creation and I've never seriously pursued it before until now. And another thing that I am personally very passionate about is making handcraft items. I personally love to make needle felting and jewelry, and this is something that I've always wanted to do, is start my own business. So again, like, is this gonna be a source of income for me? By no means, but it's something that I'm looking again to develop for the long term. If you're interested in the art that I've sold before, feel free to check out my art Instagram account down below. Shameless promotions here, I know, but your girl's gotta do what she's gotta do, okay? So if you want to start your own budgeting plan, I would essentially recommend 3 steps here. First, start tracking your finances, okay? Download a budgeting app, find a free budgeting calendar online, or if you're like me, start a spreadsheet and just record all of the things you've earned and spent at the end of each month. This is going to help you understand how much your necessities are costing you, as well as how much you're recreationally spending on a monthly basis. This will ultimately help you analyze areas in which you can improve your spending behaviors. For example, if you're eating out a lot, then you can definitely reduce that. And then once you know how much you're spending per month, then number 2, look at your savings. Do you have any? And if so, how much time would you theoretically have before your savings runs out? Again, open up that high yield savings account if you haven't already and make it an intention that this is your nest egg and you need to nurture it in order for it to nurture you. And lastly, this is for those of you who are specifically looking to quit, but consider ways in which you can offset your expenses during your time off if you feel like that is a need based on your financial situation. Do that door dashing, take that part-time retail job. There's no shame in doing service or retail work, and it doesn't make you any less of a person, even if that's what society has taught us. If anything, you are smart for being aware of your financial situation and doing what you need to do best in order to take care of yourself. Let me know in the comments if anything that I shared was helpful for you. I'm just another random human being on this earth who likes to share her thoughts in the hopes that somebody will resonate with something. Thank you for watching. If you like watching games and streams, feel free to follow me on Twitch, where I stream every Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.